All right, Council, it looks like we are live on YouTube. So we will call the meeting to order. I'll remind everyone of the purpose of the special council meeting is to receive the report for the township's consultation on the fundraising campaign for the community hall arena renovation project. Remind everyone to please disclose of any pecuniary interest at the appropriate time. And it's now my great pleasure to turn it over to Sue Engels from Inspire to give us our presentation. Take it away, Sue.
Thanks, Mayor Roberts. Well, last week we presented the report to the steering committee, and as a result of that, this report came to council, I guess, through the council package on Friday, and it's a very good news report. So I'll walk you through 10 or 11 slides to kind of overview our process and all the great findings that support this future capital campaign for the East Lambton Community Complex. And am I sharing? Everybody can hear me? You've got the screen? Okay, perfect. So to remind everybody, in early December, we started the capital campaign feasibility study. It had these goals, which was to, first of all, really determine if the community was behind the $2 million capital campaign that was proposed for the new community complex. So that was a number one goal. Number two, we wanted to build relationships between township staff and myself and potential funders for the project. So Teresa and Amanda were on all of the interviews that we did in the community. So as I learned from people in the community and as we listened to people's opinions about the project, staff were hearing those as well. We wanted to find out about the local climate for fundraising. So was it a good time? Obviously, COVID has been a major challenge for capital campaigns across the country. And it's been very difficult for a lot of campaigns that were up and running. And so we wanted to find out and measure that impact of COVID on this potential campaign, really answering the question, was the timing good or was it not good? We wanted to determine the folks in the community that might consider volunteering on a capital campaign. Volunteer leadership is a critical success factor for a future of a capital campaign. And when there are times when I've not recommended a capital campaign to an organization, it's really because community leaders will not come on side and help raise the funds. So we wanted to look at that. We wanted to find out if folks in the community and the regional business community would support the campaign. And finally, really gather advice and guidance from your community for you to consider as this project moves forward. So we got lots of data. We asked folks about 20 questions, and I'll just walk through who we talked to. So the study had 47 participants. Each person was participated via a Zoom call. A couple of people dropped into Teresa's office because they wanted to see her, and then I participated via Zoom. But we had a great participation in the study. As you know, all members of council participated in the study, members of the steering committee, and an array of community members. We had more interviews that had 2 people on them or more. We had one interview with 4 people. So it was really great interest in chatting about the project. So this slide breaks down the folks that we chatted to. So all members of council, 5 regional businesses, local business community, individuals and families. Within that, individuals and families in the local business community are also a number of service clubs that are represented. In your community, people wear so many different hats, right? So I counted them really with their primary voice that they spoke about, or they spoke from, but there were certainly Rotarians and Optimist members and others, Knights of Columbus, that were on the calls. So in total, 30 people, 30 interviews with 47 participants. So that was excellent. And by the way, the steering committee identified the group of folks that we'd ideally like to chat with. In fact, the list was about 60. And so over the course of time, we were scheduled 30 appointments with 47 people. So really good turnout on this. So the first question we asked people was their views of the East Lambton Community Complex. Each person had received in advance a 3-page document that outlined the features and the benefits and the cost of the project and outline of all the activities that would occur there. So we asked, really the number one question was, do you like the project? Do you have any concerns about the project? And what features do you like about it? So I don't know if I've ever had a study that didn't have any detractors, but 100% of people like the project. So that's really positive. And that's regional businesses, that's local people. And the positive comments, there's really some theming to this, but that there was something for everyone. Like there's quite a few people in the community that have YMCA memberships, that use Forest or Strathroy. They love the Y element of it. But I think the bigger picture benefit was that it would be a catalyst for attracting, retaining families and supporting economic growth. So very positive feeling, in addition to looking inside the building, people getting quite excited about what was there. There was certainly a really good understanding that Centennial Hall has been a beloved facility, but that it's at end of days. And this was a great, the gym features and the kitchen features were an ideal way to have multi-purpose uses for that space. And I give credit to Teresa because the outdoor kitchen was really seen as a standout project. I think Teresa was very excited about that. So, she talked about that in great detail, but down to people were interested in it, have we talked to caterers about where the outlets are going to go? People were like living and breathing the project and could really see the functioning of it. So there's nothing in it that people said, we don't like this, or why do you need that? It was very positive. So, and so when there were questions, they were really about logistical type things. So because there are so many potential functions for the building and elements to it, would it be noisy? If there was, a Zumba class going on with a Rotary Club meeting with a function in the hall, how would that all work from a noise perspective and a parking perspective? As well, can you accommodate all those multiple uses at the same time? People wanted to make sure that the Y programs didn't displace community programs run by the township. So they're just logistical type questions, but all really, great. And having Teresa as the person who leads all the parks and rec activities in the community, there's the expert to be able to talk through, and also someone who's leading on the building side of it could talk through all of those features and answer those questions. Or in some cases, it required follow-up so lots of back and forth and good communication on the project. So in terms of, I would say, any kind of concerns, no project-related concerns. Some individuals, and I think it's 5, cited red tape within the municipality and wanting the municipality to be business-friendly. Isn't saying that they've had obstacles, but when you're asking people in the community, they want to know that the municipality is doing its best not to create obstacles for them doing business. And then the other concern was if there's cost overruns. So that's an unknown. So people don't dispute the fact that this is going to cost money and it's going to be on the tax base. But if it becomes a much more expensive project, like 14, 15 million, people will want to hear more about that. And I think that will be a communications issue if that comes up. Of course, that's not the case at this time. So, but people are just, thinking about that in the future. So that's really great support for the project. I'm just going to move to the next slide. One of the things council asked was for the study to test the name of the building. So the steering committee, we decided when we were creating the documents that were going to be sent out as part of the interview package, that we had to settle on a name. So it was a community hub, it was a community complex, it was a community center. There was a number of different ways that it could be described. And so it was sort of landed that the name, working title, would be the East Lambton Community Complex. So we asked people directly, is that the preferred name, or would you would you see another name as being more appropriate? So to feedback to you, what we heard was 77% of people find that the East Lambton Community Complex name is appropriate. A couple of people thought it was kind of bland or boring, but appropriate. So in terms of the other really 6 people who had some other ideas about the name, one was not complex, it should be a center. That it should be really attached to a name of the town. So Watford, Warwick, or Watford. Community Complex. And then one of our last interviewees suggested the name The Nest, which I latched onto because I thought that's kind of a nice name. But those were the names that surfaced. But the prevailing view, 77%, like the name East Lambton Community Complex, and it follows with the school and it follows with minor hockey. So it seemed appropriate. Okay, doke. And by the way, if you have any questions, you feel free to ask me as we go, but we can always come back to you. So in terms of some of the tactical type questions we ask that will indicate kind of the future health of a capital campaign and whether this capital campaign would be successful, one of the most fundamental elements is having a good quality campaign cabinet, people that are going to step up and be the face of the campaign and really ask others to join them in supporting it. So of the interviewee pool, 62% of people said that they would volunteer on the capital campaign. And that's a great success, great number. That represents 16 couples or individuals. As I said, there are a lot of husband and wife teams that participated in the study. And it was funny because some would point to their spouse and say, "You're the ideal chair." And we had lots of laughs over people self-appointing and that kind of thing. So in addition to the interviewee pool, in total 28 community leaders were suggested as potential campaign volunteers. So that's a really good starting pool. And as you know, if we talk to 47 people, that's not your entire community of leaders. There are many, many more leaders that would be suitable to be on the campaign. So that's really from this smaller pool. So that's a really good start. So I don't have any concerns at this time that you will be able to populate a campaign cabinet. So that would be, again, the volunteers that'll be the face of the campaign, that'll drive the campaign. So that was a really good response. And we asked quite a few different questions. So I'm just going to summarize some of the other questions that I think support a really positive response. So I did ask each individual that was interviewed whether they would see themselves as a donor to the campaign, and 90% said they would. No one said no, as a matter of fact, and 3 people were just uncertain at this time. So that's a very positive number. We didn't ask people, how much they would give to the campaign. It's too early, it wasn't appropriate, but we did try to get a sense of some early indications of support. And the range of that is $550,000 to $700,000. And that's 12 gifts of $25,000 or more that were identified. It doesn't mean we asked for money. It's just sort of like, what are you thinking about in terms of your support for the campaign? And people would, sometimes people just, even before we got to that question, said, we're already thinking about this. One family that's not even in that group said, we are thinking of a sizable donation, but we didn't want to go too close to that. We were just looking for indications and early indications. So that's a very positive number. If you think about that, 550 to 700,000, that's a third of your total in really the small interview pool. So that should give you confidence. All regional businesses that we spoke to would support the campaign. And there's a particular interest at that level for naming opportunities. I think there's going to be a huge appetite for naming opportunities because there's quite a bit of opportunity within the building. But regional businesses, in fact, that are generating, let me just say, regional businesses were very interested in naming opportunities and want them soon. In fact, so we got some follow-up emails that said, can't wait to sort of, hear what the naming opportunities are going to be. So we did indicate that the starting point for that is likely to be $25,000 in a pledge period over 3 to 5 years. So we haven't finalized that, but we wanted to set that giving site at a fairly good number. Another finding is that COVID is affecting certain local businesses, and that is absolutely no surprise to anybody, I'm sure. And that just means that you need to be sensitive about the timing, and certain businesses is probably not appropriate to ask at this point, and wait until and be respectful of the time it takes for recovery. So that just makes all the sense in the world. We had hoped that we might identify a top donor to the project, and while we've had conversations, that has not been confirmed, and that's probably all I'll say on that one. Potential, but not confirmed. So
Sorry to interrupt. Just to confirm, like a donation of like 25,000, is that tax deductible for these businesses?
absolutely,
Okay,
absolutely.
great.
Yep.
Thank you.
So kind of leading up to this great slide here is that I have full confidence that the evidence points to a $2 million capital fundraising campaign goal that will be achievable. So that then I'm going to go into kind of the why on that, just a little bit reinforcement so that you can understand why I came to that. Because I haven't, we don't always recommend the campaign goal to go forward as tested. And that's why you go through that process. But your community has told us that they support that goal. So 86% believe that $2 million is an achievable goal. A few people thought more could be raised, and some have caution. So because of the pandemic mostly, and is there enough money kind of in the local community? But 86% said yes, you can support the community will support a $2 million goal for this. It's really quite surprising that the project does not have the typical detractors. There's not people that are meeting at Tim Hortons, kind of grumbling about the project. You almost always have. Unless we didn't find them. They're hiding right now, but we found really that people were very positive. So that's wonderful. Again, key leaders and community groups are very supportive. Some are putting aside money for this in the community group sector already, knowing that this was coming. I think timing, I finished a study for another municipality in November, and the timing at that point, there wasn't that level of optimism there is right now. I mean, there's no good COVID news right now, but nonetheless, I think people see that the end is in sight, and so feel some optimism about the campaign being successful. So the timing is actually good. We've heard again and again that this has been a good period of time in the agriculture sector. And one of the things I put a lot of pressure on Teresa, that you have someone on staff that knows how to run this campaign, and that a lot of municipalities do not have that in place. Prior to going into a campaign, they have to hire someone or they repurpose someone, but you have someone who has been through that for a community complex in a similar size area. So that's a huge benefit to you. I talk to you all individually, and I know that you all see meaningful roles for yourselves and that you're supportive of the project as well. That was very important to me. And as you know, I talked with each one of you about what the role of council should be. And you all had different ways of saying we're on board in a big way, and we'll do whatever we can to help. And then, you know this more than me. I'm new to your community in terms of these conversations, but I think you have a phenomenally caring community, and a community that's anxious to gather and be together. And it's a very confident time in the community. So that makes, this project is pretty special for people. So I think all those things contribute to a positive capital campaign on your horizon. So next, I'm just going to walk through what that timeline looks like for you. So I have a chart here that walks through the various phases of the campaign. So at the top on the left is the "We Are Here." We're almost at the end of March. So, and at this point, from a fundraising perspective, I know Teresa's been providing reports to council and the Parks and Rec Committee over time, but you're at the point where you're ready to really organize this campaign. The feasibility study is a green light. And so now you've got to do a few things to tidy that up and start formally asking for money, so to speak. So the next couple of months, you need to do some campaign organizations. So we have that 3-page document I talked about. That needs to be turned into something a bit more substantial for the campaign. You have to decide if the "Get Ready, Get Set, Go" is the campaign theme. You need to define the naming opportunities and what are the terms attached to that, how many years. You need to develop not so much a contract, but an agreement, so that folks know if they give you $50,000 and they're going to name the Fireside Lounge, that's for X number of years. The pledge period is X number of years. And, these are the expectations. So we didn't used to have to do those, but, things happen like 3 years from now. that business might, leave the community, or, they might have a name change. Teresa's gone through that with a major rink being named, and then that company selling to a company in Nova Scotia, a whole different name. How do you deal with that? So let's say anticipate those, and we'll have an agreement. There need to be prospect lists developed and tracking. You need to recruit the campaign cabinet. So the list is not small of things you need to do, so that when the campaign really formally starts, you're prepared. So campaigns normally have what we call a quiet phase. I think that'll be difficult to be quiet in a small community where you're so connected to each other. Like, you probably think I'm dreaming, but typically campaigns have a quiet phase where you are really talking to your largest prospective donors and asking them to support the campaign first. And you do that until you're at around 60% or even higher of the campaign goals. So there's not a community call to action. You're not asking the community to do small things or make, $100 donations. You're really talking to the larger prospects first and being very selective about the gift announcements. Communities can sustain campaigns for only so long. And you want, I remember driving to, my sister lives in Southampton on Lake Huron, and they were raising money for a rink. And year after year, there was a thermometer outside of town, the north side and the south side of Highway 21. And it never changed. And it was there year after year after year, or it would go up by 100,000. And you can't sustain that kind of, campaigns shouldn't take that long, but you want it to be a high energy, exciting campaign. In part because your building is going to be built by next summer, right? 2022, it's going to be up and open and functioning. So you've got a fairly compressed timeline, but you want to do it right. So the other thing is, you don't want a prospective donor that could give $50,000 to give $50. You want to give everybody the opportunity to give the maximum amount that they would be happy to give. So that's the quiet phase. That would run through till this fall. And then you'd have that launch, some gathering, hopefully, together, a barn dance, a gala, or whatever that might be, to gather the community and celebrate how, the building itself, but the phenomenal success and generosity of your community, and ask then the entire community to support this. And then that leads into the public phase, which would take you through to the end of the campaign when you're celebrating success next June 2022. Okay. I'm going to move to the next slide because that's all the good news. I'm sure you're interested too. I've talked about the campaign cabinet a few times, and I just wanted to circle back. I hope you can see this well enough, but the campaign will need a chair or co-chairs. It would probably have an honorary chair that's not on this chart, but there's various circles of influence in a campaign that you need to address. You need to have people with different circles of influence. So when I think about your community, I think about 4 parts of my big circle here. Operations is staff. And so everything in that bottom left, which is communications, media relations, social media, website, milestone events, cultivation events, any grants, and the kind of township family, which is township council and staff, they would be under the purview of Teresa and her team. So that would be operations. The volunteers on the campaign would be in the other 3 parts of my circle here. So you've got local families in the individual sector, retirees, farm families, and families in neighboring towns. Sometimes large donors come from outside the community, from people that don't live in your area anymore, but grew up there. And you don't want to, not think about those folks. I'm doing some work with one organization where their largest donor is like 1,000 kilometers away. The largest donor. They're not from their community anymore, but they grew up there and they're successful and they live somewhere else now. So there might be opportunities like that. So I didn't want that, neighboring communities and towns. And you have lots of people that perhaps work in Watford, but live in, Plimpton, Wyoming, or Forest. So anyhow, there's lots of folks there. On the corporate business side, you have both the regional businesses, the Chemical Valley, you have developers, and we spoke to a number of them in the interview process. You've got municipal suppliers, or for example, some of the folks that are involved in building the building. You've got your marketing boards, agribusinesses, seed companies. There's so many businesses that are potentially there under that business quadrant. And then finally, the folks in the community that are part of community groups, Optimist members, user groups, social clubs. I mean, it could be churches. You could go on and on and on this kind of groups. So we see there being quite an array of prospects. So when you build a campaign cabinet, you're looking to populate that and recruit people that cover all of these sectors. And one of the best rules of fundraising is the number one rule is you have to ask. And if someone asks you, you're more likely to give than when a stranger asks. So having the right folks in this campaign cabinet with broad circles of influence will be instrumental to your success. Okay, couple more slides. So the fundamentals, like kind of the rules of the road here. Donors would be asked to support the campaign with a 3 to 5 year pledge. Some donors may choose to do that one time. So make a $5,000 contribution and just do that over 1 year. Some might say, we'll do 5,000 and spread that over 5. You often find from a cash flow tracking perspective, people will say, to be cautious, we'll do it over 5, and then they end up paying it off in a year or so. So, but you would give people the opportunity to pledge over 3 to 5 years. Naming opportunities, as mentioned, would start at 25,000. Again, that has to be firmed up, but that's a recommendation at this point. All members of the campaign cabinet and members of council should become personal donors to this. And I say that without putting pressure on anybody about the amount. It's about participation. It's about that positive messaging that every one of us who's here being the face of this project and of the campaign, we are personal donors. And if people don't do that, then they don't have a personal story to tell when they ask another family or individual or service club, whatever, to join them. It's really a fundamental rule of the road. But I don't want you to get a message from me that there's any pressure about that in terms of amount. It's what makes you feel good. So the cabinet, I mentioned kind of all the sectors, but we must populate that with people who are comfortable asking for support. So when I ask people the question about would they volunteer on the campaign, some people said, I hate fundraising. I don't want to ask for money. It's not one of my skill set. Or someone else to say, I'm better at organizing events. I'm not someone who's going to ask others. Or other people are like, oh, absolutely. So you want to populate the campaign cabinet with people that are comfortable, who are comfortable asking for money, because at the end of the day, asking is the most important part of a campaign. So one of the things that's a weird worry, but I have a worry because your results are so positive that people will just go out and say, oh, I heard you said in the study you could give 5,000. I'm here to come collect it, right? And I worry that will leave money on the table, and that what you want to do is inspire donors to say, I love that particular naming opportunity, or this is such an important project for our community. We'll do 5 times that. So, it really is about taking time and having conversations with every potential donor, allowing lots of time for a decision, and really giving people the opportunity to think about, a meaningful gift to this. So that's different than like going to someone's house and asking for $20 out of their pocket, right? We're looking for something different. The township will need to ensure that the Parks and Recreation manager can fully support the management of the campaign, and that's in the works. And we've talked about that behind the scenes. And then finally, on this slide, there will need to be a campaign budget. There are operating costs for a campaign. They are huge, but you do need some for signage, brochures, cultivation events. There's just they're not huge costs, but Teresa will need a budget for being able to host meetings and have Tim Hortons brought in, or let's say we wanted to do some fun little videos to kind of showcase what people think about the project, and do those well. There might be some costs there. So we definitely encourage you to have some operating costs for this campaign, but it would be no more than 10% of the goal. That's 200,000, but I would think that would be a stretch, but it does need some money. It does cost money to raise money. So, and then finally, the campaign gift chart. So this is a roadmap to $2 million based on the findings of the study. So I'll walk through each column. So on the left-hand side is the gift level of over 3 to 5 years. The top sort of gift, placeholder gift on this is 250,000. We did not identify 250,000 in the study, but there's quite the possibility that there could be a gift of that magnitude. There has been for other facilities regionally. And just because the study didn't, find a $250,000 donor doesn't mean good work on the campaign can't find one and attract a donor at that level. 3 gifts at 100,000, 50 at 8 at 50,000, and it goes down from there. So in total, that is 130, 140 gifts to raise 2 million. And there's a typical rule of thumb in fundraising that you need 3 prospects at that level to get a gift. And so that's the prospects required column. It's a 3-to-1 ratio. But if you have 3 prospects that you want to ask for $100,000, or 9 people you think could give 100,000, certainly some of them won't, but they'll give at a lower level. So doesn't mean you need to have 600 potential donors or prospects to this. Just means that you need to have people at that level have that capacity. So as you can see then, it's about 75% of the goal that would be raised in gifts of $25,000 or more. And I want to say that absolutely every gift is valued. And so there's quite a few, really unlimited number at the bottom of under 1,000 because every gift is valued. I can see, school kids doing birthday parties and asking for donations to the community complex. Those kinds of things are so cool, or school groups doing things. Or gosh, I can imagine there'll be garage sales where people are donating all their proceeds to the community complex. Those are all the things that are down in the under 1,000, and they're just as valuable personally as a $50,000 gift. And we just want people to give in ways that are comfortable for them. So that's our gift chart. And that brings me to the end of my presentation. And I open it for questions, and I'm going to try to get you all on screen so I can see you this time. There, are there 7 of you? I see myself. I don't really need to see myself, but okay. I sort of got everybody.
Who's sharing the screen there? Because we can unshare the screen and get everybody.
Want me to unshare it? I'm sharing it. Okay. I'm unshared. Is that okay?
I'm still seeing a screen share.
Stop share.
It's
I'm
still
looking
there,
for.
Sue.
There we go.
There we go. Thank you.
And we have 9 people on total. So that's quite a bit of information, Council. Does anybody have questions or comments about the Councillor Morris?
Got a couple here. You mentioned 28 individuals that you've pinpointed for the committee. How many have actually agreed to this?
So the question that we actually asked people was, would you consider being involved in the campaign cabinet in some way? So I think that back on that slide of the people we asked that question to, was it Teresa? Unless I open another computer now, I can't see. I think it was 13 or 16 people that said that they would consider being on the campaign cabinet. But we also asked people to identify, if you could choose who would be the ideal chair of the campaign, and are there others that you think would be ideal to be on the cabinet in some fashion? That's the 28. So some of those people were interviewed, but not all. Does that help?
Yeah, that's good. The other question I had was, you mentioned about a 5-year pledge, but I can pay that off in 2-3 years if I want to. It's not like
it's actually, the donors can do whatever they wish. And so the 3 to 5 year pledge period is really an opportunity for people to plan something over a longer period of time. But it certainly wouldn't surprise me if someone has an account that says, hey, it's been a great year, that you could use the tax
Yeah.
advantage, pay it off now.
Okay.
So that will happen.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Mitchell.
I really latched on to the ask portion of your presentation. Are we going to generate in-house like a best practices, tips, and so forth as to, kind of guide our fundraising team to ask those gentle questions in an effective way? Like, is that part of
Yeah,
our planning process?
I was
Teresa,
thinking that
that's
too.
what-
Is there
yeah.
going to be training?
So Teresa will own, the support of the volunteers, but it's absolutely number one, right? To ask people in a very sensitive way and allow time for that, and to train them in advance and do role playing if people want, or one-on-one coaching with people, whatever works, because people won't be successful if they're not comfortable. So absolutely. Teresa, do you want to add to that? Because you've been through this too.
Yeah, thanks, Sue. Yeah, and our previous campaign that I worked on with Sue was once you've created your campaign cabinet, was training, getting everybody together, and to understand that everything is prepared for the campaign cabinet, that they're not at home typing documents and getting things ready. That's really the responsibility of staff, but training was a big part of it.
Great question.
Excellent.
Any other
Thanks.
questions? Comments are welcome as well. Wayne, sorry, Councillor Morris.
I think it was a great report, Sue. I really appreciate it. I have no questions at this time, but that does not mean something's going to come up that I won't have questions. Are we available to ask you questions through Teresa?
Oh yeah, and you have my email, so we've corresponded before when we set
Yes.
up the appointment. So absolutely, I'm not very far away. So
Okay.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Councillor White, did you have a comment?
Just again, what Wayne said, just a great presentation, very positive and exciting. So thank you.
It is
Councillor
exciting,
Webb.
isn't it? I thought it was super exciting. We had a lot of fun. Teresa just sent me an hour ago. She did another interview today. We sort of said, like, we had to cut off the interviews with the last one so I could write the report. But Teresa was completely comfortable going on and doing more, and spoke to someone today who then said speak to her husband. And it's all about relationship building and listening to people. So
Councillor Westgate.
Yeah, it was a very positive, good report. There was a couple people that said council was hard to get along with, and there was too much red tape. I just wonder if there's anything we need to look at there.
Yeah.
So obviously I won't name names or anything like that.
No, I
But
wouldn't expect it.
Amanda's had all the feedback. She knows the details of that. So all of the raw data before I started crunching up the numbers for the report, every comment in its entirety, the unabridged versions, went to Amanda so that she could understand and listen. And she had that feeling too. She wanted to kind of be able to make sure that those concerns were addressed. I don't think they said council. No, you don't have to. They really just really wanted the municipality to not be one that's mired in red tape.
Right. So it's easy to use the facility and to get the rentals going and all of that stuff.
No, I think it was about bigger picture, working with the municipality on like roads or signage, whatever it might have been.
Oh, okay.
Not about this project.
Oh, okay. It's a good opportunity, I guess, to reach out to the community where they know that they can speak their mind.
Yes, and and I don't think Amanda was on a couple of those, but Teresa was, so she knows exactly. And we were able to listen. That was the important thing, and in some cases follow up by email and make sure that was listened to. Right, that's a really important function of of staff. But when you engage people, we had to prepare to hear it all. And I would say that was so little that was worrisome at all. So
It's good. Councillor Morris.
Just one question. I know with service clubs, fundraising right now is pretty tough because of COVID. I would really like to see it out to the service clubs as soon as possible, so they have the full 5 years to work with, rather than wait till it's almost the end of the year and this building is started, it's almost done, and we haven't been talked to yet. I've already heard from some service clubs that, what do they want from us? What do they expect? What can we do? I think it's important to get
and we, for example, in the Optimist, I think like 5 or 6 of our interviewees wore an Optimist hat amongst their many other hats. So I think we got the messages and how important service clubs are to the project. I'm talking. Okay, so we certainly heard that. And I would think from a naming opportunities perspective too, there was, some jokes along the way about the ones they want. And, we get that, right? They are so important to the community. So they deserve the kind of right of first refusal as well, right?
Councillor Westgate.
I think this is ideal timing for this. Everybody's been cooped up with COVID. Most people have saved money. COVID hasn't cost them money. They haven't traveled any place. They haven't gone out any place. They haven't gone out to eat or anything. They're all ready to get out, do something, and I think they have the money saved to do it. And as far as the Optimist Club, I know they were looking at it 2 years ago, starting to put some money away towards it.
Yeah, I was going to say, we have an amazing Optimist and Rotary and Knights of Columbus, CWL, like the community has some amazing groups that all want to contribute. I'm surprised there wasn't any comments about a stage, because I hear that from my CWL ladies all the time.
Well, Teresa would have an answer for that, I'm sure. Teresa's probably got a stage in her back pocket.
Well, let's hope, because we have our once a year penny sale that we do, and we need a stage for that because it's performance. So, but I agree with Councillor Westgate. I think people are so ready to get out and get doing something. I see maybe August as the celebration time, just because that's Corn Fest, but I guess that schedule can be adjusted as well.
Yeah, these are working goals for sure. So
yeah,
and COVID's still so unknown, right? So
yes, exactly. We're hoping with the vaccines that we're protecting our most vulnerable, and that the rest of us can get on with life. And
I have mine tomorrow at 12:45. I am so excited. It's like I won the lottery. I feel like I did anyhow. And my mom got hers last week. Yeah, those are the good things in life.
Yeah. Any questions from staff or comments from staff about the process or about the results, surprises, or?
My only comment, Mayor Rumbas, would just be thanks to Sue and Teresa for leading the charge. It was really great to be able to listen to some of the comments coming back from the community, and I just echo Council's enthusiasm and excitement for the project. I think we were all excited, but hearing that it's primarily positive from our interviews just makes it even more exciting. So
yeah,
thank you, Sue.
Breaking ground on this project will be an extremely good day. All right. If there's no other questions, we do need a motion to receive and file that report, I believe. Moved by Councillor White, seconded by Councillor Mitchell. All in favor? That is carried. And we have a bylaw that we need to, is there any new business?
Should I go? Sorry.
Thank you so much, Sue.
Okay.
We will let you go.
Okay.
Thank you for that report, and we look forward to seeing what happens going into the future.
It's going to be great. Okay, thanks everybody.
Yeah. Thanks. Okay, is there any new business, council? All right, then we have
Oh,
bylaws. Oh, sorry, Jerry.
What is next here? Is the steering committee going to go ahead? They should be ready
Good
to go when
question.
they start digging, right? So
Do you
the
want to
steer-
speak to that, Teresa, or would you like me to?
Yes,
Go
and
ahead.
I think if I can, Mayor Rumboats, there was a second part to that motion.
Oh, thank you.
That staff be directed to pursue the next steps associated with implementing the study and fundraising campaign.
Right, yes, thank you.
And that would answer, I think, Councillor Westgate's question.
All right, so next step is, can you just define that for council for us?
Oh, so the next step would be that we now have all the information and that we would be starting to work on materials and primarily recruiting a campaign chair or a co-chair. That will be really important. And then working with that or those individuals to start filling the campaign cabinet so that we can have everything in place as soon as possible.
And the steering committee is going to be working with you on that.
No, the steering committee's role is now complete.
Okay. Okay, great. All right. So staff is good with that resolution then, and council's good with that. All right. We'll go on to bylaws.
Thank you, Mayor Rumba. So that bylaw 27 of 2021 be read a first and second time.
Moved by Councillor Morris, seconded by Councillor Westgate. All in favor? That is carried.
And that bylaw 27 of 2021 be read a third time and finally passed.
Okay. Moved by Councillor Mitchell, seconded by Councillor White. All in favor? That is carried. And just a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Mitchell, seconded by Councillor Westgate. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you guys, and thank you to our staff who have worked so hard on this so far. We still have a long way to go, but it's an exciting prospect to coming. All
I
right,
think you should order the golden shovel for the first dig right now.
golden shovel, yeah.